Imagine you're flying over the Nevada desert at 30,000 feet. Below you stretches an endless expanse of sand, rock, and sagebrush. It looks empty, desolate, forgotten by time. But hidden beneath this barren landscape lies one of America's most closely guarded secrets: nuclear weapons storage facilities that have shaped global security for over 70 years. Why would the United States choose to place some of its most powerful weapons in the middle of nowhere? The answer reveals a fascinating intersection of geography, strategy, and science that most people never consider. Today, we're going to explore the hidden logic behind America's nuclear geography, a story that begins with the dawn of the atomic age and continues to influence global stability today. The desert Southwest isn't just empty space. It's a carefully chosen strategic asset, selected through decades of military planning and scientific analysis. From the windswept mesas of New Mexico to the isolated valleys of Nevada, these landscapes serve purposes that go far beyond their apparent emptiness. Understanding why requires us to think like military strategists, environmental scientists, and security experts all at once. This isn't a story about weapons themselves, but about the fascinating decision-making process that determines where nations place their most sensitive assets. It's about geography as strategy, isolation as protection, and how the natural world becomes part of national defense planning. By the end of this exploration, you'll understand why some of America's most important facilities are hidden in places where most people would never think to look. The choice to use desert locations wasn't random or convenient. It was the result of careful calculation involving factors most of us never consider. Let's begin this journey into the strategic geography of American nuclear policy. The story begins in 1945, in a desert location that would become famous worldwide, Alamogordo, New Mexico. The Trinity test site, chosen for its isolation and clear weather patterns, demonstrated the power of atomic weapons for the first time. But this wasn't just a one-time experiment. It established a pattern that would define American nuclear strategy for generations. During World War II, the Manhattan Project required vast, secret facilities where scientists could work without detection. The desert provided perfect cover. Los Alamos, built on a remote plateau in New Mexico, became the birthplace of nuclear weapons precisely because it was far from prying eyes and potential enemy observation. The success of these remote locations proved that isolation wasn't just helpful, it was essential. As the Cold War began, nuclear weapons quickly evolved from experimental devices to core elements of national strategy. The challenge became, where do you store weapons powerful enough to level cities? Early planners realized that traditional military bases, often located near population centers, weren't suitable. The weapons were too dangerous, too sensitive, and too valuable to risk in conventional locations. The solution emerged through careful study of American geography. Military planners identified regions that offered multiple advantages: distance from major cities, stable geological conditions, controlled access, and minimal civilian populations. The American Southwest, with its vast federal lands and sparse population, became the obvious choice. By the 1950s, facilities like the Nevada test site had expanded far beyond their original purposes. What began as testing locations evolved into comprehensive nuclear complexes, complete with storage facilities, research laboratories, and training centers. The desert wasn't just hiding nuclear weapons, it was becoming the foundation of America's nuclear infrastructure. This historical progression reveals something important. The choice of desert locations wasn't accidental, but the result of systematic planning that considered factors ranging from geology to meteorology to human psychology. When military planners first mapped potential sites for nuclear facilities, they weren't just looking at empty space. They were analyzing a complex web of geographic factors that most people never consider. The American desert offered a unique combination of advantages that made it ideal for nuclear storage and testing. First, consider isolation. Nuclear facilities require buffer zones measured not in feet or yards, but in miles. The Nevada test site, for example, covers 1,260 square miles, larger than the state of Rhode Island. This isn't excessive, it's necessary. Nuclear materials, even in storage, require enormous safety perimeters. Desert locations provide this space naturally, without displacing large civilian populations or competing with commercial development. Climate plays a crucial role that extends beyond simple weather patterns. Desert environments offer low humidity, minimal precipitation, and stable atmospheric conditions. These factors are critical for both storage and security. Low humidity reduces corrosion risks for sensitive equipment and storage containers. Minimal rainfall prevents groundwater contamination and reduces environmental monitoring complexity. Clear skies and predictable weather patterns enhance security operations and emergency response capabilities. Geological stability represents another key advantage. Much of the American Southwest sits on ancient, stable rock formations that have remained unchanged for millions of years. This geological consistency is essential for underground storage facilities, which must remain secure and stable for decades. Seismic activity in these regions is typically minimal, reducing risks of structural damage or accidental exposure. The vast federal land ownership in western states provided an additional strategic advantage. Unlike densely populated eastern regions where land acquisition would require extensive private property purchases and community displacement, western deserts offered large tracts of existing federal territory. This simplified security, reduced costs, and minimized civilian oversight concerns. Population density, or rather the lack thereof, completed the geographic equation. Sparse population means fewer security risks, reduced accident consequences, and simplified emergency planning. The Nevada test site stands as perhaps the most famous example of desert nuclear infrastructure, though much of its operations remain classified even decades after its establishment. What we do know from declassified documents and public records reveals a facility of staggering complexity, built into one of America's most forbidding landscapes. Covering more than 1,360 square miles of desert north of Las Vegas, the Nevada test site served as the primary location for American nuclear testing from 1951 to 1992, but testing was only part of its mission. The facility includes underground storage areas, research laboratories, emergency response training centers, and security installations that rival small cities in their complexity. Sandia National Laboratories in New Mexico represents another crucial piece of America's desert nuclear infrastructure. Unlike popular media portrayals of hidden bunkers, Sandia operates as a legitimate research institution, conducting unclassified scientific research alongside its classified nuclear security missions. The facility's location in the high desert of New Mexico provides the same geographic advantages we've discussed: isolation, climate control, and security. The infrastructure requirements for these facilities extend far beyond simple storage. Desert nuclear sites require independent power generation, water systems capable of supporting thousands of workers, communication networks that can function in extreme conditions, and transportation systems designed to move extremely sensitive materials without detection. Underground facilities represent some of the most impressive engineering achievements in these desert locations. Carved directly into solid rock, these installations can withstand natural disasters, potential attacks, and the test of time. The engineering challenges of building in desert environments, extreme temperatures, minimal water, difficult terrain, have produced innovations that benefit civilian construction projects worldwide. Modern satellite imagery reveals the scale of these installations, though the most sensitive areas remain carefully obscured. What's visible shows massive industrial complexes, transportation networks, and security perimeters that stretch for miles across seemingly empty desert. The strategic advantages of desert nuclear storage extend far beyond simple geographic isolation. These locations represent carefully calculated decisions that balance multiple security concerns while maintaining operational effectiveness and treaty compliance. Distance from population centers provides the most obvious security advantage. In the unlikely event of an accident, desert locations minimize potential civilian casualties and environmental damage. This isn't just about worst-case scenarios, it's about day-to-day risk management. Nuclear materials require constant maintenance, transportation, and security operations. Conducting these activities far from civilian populations reduces both security risks and public anxiety. Natural security barriers complement human security measures in ways that few other environments can match. Desert terrain naturally restricts access, channeling potential intruders through predictable routes that security forces can easily monitor and control. The harsh environment itself serves as a deterrent, making unauthorized approach extremely difficult without specialized equipment and training. Hardened storage facilities built into desert rock formations provide protection against both natural disasters and potential attacks. Unlike surface installations that might be vulnerable to extreme weather or other threats, underground desert facilities can withstand conditions that would destroy conventional buildings. The geological stability we discussed earlier becomes a security asset, ensuring that protective structures remain intact for decades. Communication security benefits from desert isolation in ways that might not be immediately obvious. Remote locations reduce electronic interference from civilian sources, making it easier to detect unauthorized surveillance or communication attempts. The clear atmospheric conditions common in desert environments enhance radar and satellite monitoring capabilities, while reducing the effectiveness of potential hostile reconnaissance. Emergency response capabilities, while challenging to maintain in remote locations, benefit from controlled access and predictable conditions. Security forces know the terrain intimately, can restrict access completely when necessary, and can respond to incidents without civilian interference or media attention. This controlled environment enables more effective training and more rapid response when situations arise. Environmental considerations in desert nuclear storage involve complex calculations that balance multiple factors, many of which favor desert locations over alternatives. The unique characteristics of desert ecosystems, while fragile in some ways, offer specific advantages for nuclear facility operations. Groundwater isolation represents one of the most critical environmental factors. Many desert regions feature deep groundwater tables and minimal surface water, reducing risks of contamination spread in the event of accidental release. The arid climate naturally limits the movement of any potential contaminants, containing them within smaller geographic areas where cleanup and monitoring are more manageable. Minimal precipitation serves dual purposes, reducing corrosion risks for storage containers and limiting the environmental pathways through which contaminants might spread. Desert facilities don't face the constant moisture challenges that plague storage sites in humid climates. This dry environment actually helps preserve storage containers and facility infrastructure, extending their operational lifespans. Wildlife and vegetation patterns in desert regions, while requiring careful protection, typically involve smaller population densities and more predictable migration patterns than forested or grassland environments. This simplifies environmental monitoring and reduces the complexity of ecological risk assessments. Desert species have often adapted to harsh conditions, making them potentially more resilient to environmental changes. Atmospheric conditions in desert regions enhance both safety and secrecy operations. Clear skies and predictable weather patterns improve emergency response capabilities and security monitoring. The same conditions that make deserts challenging for human habitation, extreme temperatures, low humidity, intense solar radiation, actually benefits certain types of nuclear storage by reducing corrosion and biological degradation of storage systems. Secrecy benefits from the natural camouflage that desert environments provide. Facilities can be built into existing terrain features, making them nearly invisible from casual observation. The vast distances and harsh conditions discourage unauthorized exploration while providing natural cover for legitimate operations. Today's desert nuclear facilities serve roles that extend far beyond simple weapons storage, evolving into comprehensive centers for nuclear security, scientific research, and international cooperation. Understanding their modern missions reveals how these installations contribute to global stability rather than threatening it. Nuclear security training represents one of the most important contemporary missions of desert facilities. International programs bring security professionals from allied nations to train in realistic scenarios without risking exposure of sensitive information or endangering civilian populations. The controlled environment of desert installations enables training exercises that would be impossible in populated areas. Scientific research conducted at these facilities contributes to multiple fields beyond nuclear weapons. Materials, science, environmental remediation, energy storage, and advanced manufacturing all benefit from research programs based at desert nuclear sites. The unique infrastructure and security capabilities of these installations enable scientific work that supports both national security and civilian applications. Treaty verification and international monitoring activities rely heavily on the controlled access and comprehensive security systems available at desert nuclear facilities. International inspectors can verify compliance with nuclear reduction treaties while maintaining security protocols that protect sensitive information. The isolation of desert locations facilitates these inspections without compromising operational security. Emergency response training for civilian authorities represents another crucial modern mission. Desert nuclear facilities serve as training grounds for local and state emergency responders, teaching skills that apply to industrial accidents, natural disasters, and other civilian emergencies. The realistic training environments available at these sites benefit emergency response capabilities throughout the regions where they're located. Technological development programs at desert nuclear facilities often produce innovations that benefit civilian industries. Advanced materials, communication systems, security technologies, and environmental monitoring equipment developed for nuclear applications frequently find civilian uses. The harsh desert environment serves as an ideal testing ground for technologies that must perform reliably under extreme conditions. The story of America's desert nuclear facilities reveals a fascinating intersection of geography, strategy, science, and diplomacy that continues to evolve with changing global conditions. These installations represent far more than simple storage sites. They embody decades of careful planning designed to balance security needs with environmental protection and international cooperation. The geographic logic that first drew nuclear planners to American deserts remains as relevant today as it was 70 years ago. Isolation, climate stability, geological security, and controlled access continue to make these locations ideal for sensitive operations. But the missions of these facilities have expanded and evolved, reflecting changing global security needs and advancing scientific understanding. Perhaps most importantly, modern desert nuclear facilities serve as centers for nuclear security cooperation rather than competition. International training programs, scientific collaboration, and treaty verification activities conducted at these sites contribute to global nuclear security by sharing knowledge and building trust between nations. The same geographic advantages that once made these locations ideal for secret weapons development now support transparent international cooperation. Environmental stewardship has become an increasingly important aspect of desert nuclear facility operations. Modern programs focus on protecting desert ecosystems while maintaining security operations, demonstrating that national security and environmental protection can work together rather than in opposition. The future of these installations will likely involve continued evolution towards scientific research, international cooperation, and environmental protection, while maintaining their core security missions. As global nuclear policies continue to emphasize reduction and security rather than expansion, desert facilities may serve as models for responsible nuclear stewardship. Understanding the logic behind America's nuclear geography helps us appreciate the complex factors that influence national security decisions. The choice to locate sensitive facilities in desert environments reflects careful consideration of factors ranging from geology to diplomacy, demonstrating that effective security policy must consider multiple perspectives and long-term consequences. The empty desert landscapes that hide these facilities remind us that the most important security decisions often happen in places where most people never think to look. Do well to like, share, and subscribe for more contents like this.